Yo, it's Guido coming at you with a quick tactics tip. Today we're going to talk about camo real quick. I'm going to give you a practical example of what it really means. I think we all sort of understand how camo works in terms of my camouflage is how hard it is for me to see. In terms of the game, that means how close I can get to somebody before I am seen within the mechanics of the game. It has to do with their spotting capability, with your camo capability, some equipment changes based on various situations like a CVS, moving bushes, stuff like that. So I think we'll get the general idea that the more camo I have, the harder it is for them to see me, slash, in this game, the closer I can get. The closer I can get without being seen, that's the important part in the game, because depending on the map and the positions you're taking, your camo can make a big difference about whether you can use that position without being seen. We're going to talk about it with mediums, and this came to mind when I was in a game with Zemke, and we were both running this tank, the AAT-60. And he was popping up in a spot and not being seen, and I was being seen. And so we had a discussion about how our setups were, and what I didn't realize is he had a camo crew and I did not. And it made a huge difference. And then we're going to show you this particular spot and why it's kind of important, and why you might want to think about camo in maybe a slightly different way in terms of the positions you're in and whether your camo is good enough to not be spotted poking in that position. And I think it's instructed to give you practical examples in game, because I think conceptually we all get the idea of it and the theory of it, but how that actually applies to the game can be really, really important. So we're going to go in here to the comparison tool really quickly, and essentially I had camo, all the things you could do for camo more or less, other than having camo crew or the perk for each one of my crew members. And I tried to set this up with two different AAT-60s. Unfortunately, for some reason it's bugged. This second one actually has the camo crew, but it doesn't show it down here. So mine was about 18%. When I went back in there and looked at it, that's about the number I had based on my crew without camo. So if we go into the configuration here, we'll go ahead and slide down and you'll see that it doesn't, yeah, there is. So we've got camo on this, but check this out. So his was sitting at 33, 32, 33%. You got food, you got all different things going on here. But his was roughly double-ish what mine was, close to it anyway. So let's take a look in game what that actually did and what the repercussions were from it. All right, so here's the spot. We're here on Himmel's Safe Haven Dorf, spawned into the east side, and we come up to this spot. We have both poked this little spot right here, this hill, and we're looking at this char footer right here. And every time the char footer's spotting point is clear, I get spotted, and he doesn't. And that's a great example. The char's pretty far out on the maximum spotting range, which is the inner circle right there. Remember, the outer circle is the draw distance. You won't draw anything on your screen here outside of that. So even if I had a line of sight to the Scody, you'll notice this, or sorry, the T-32. The T-32 is not drawn, even though I'm looking there. So that's the draw range. The spotting range is 445 maximum spotting. That will be shown on your screen. The char is just inside of that. You'll notice the object 705 is right at the edge, so I see it. The char is just inside of it by, I don't know, 100 meters, something like that. Maybe 70, 50, 75 meters. But that is all the difference in the world between me being spotted and Zemke not being spotted, me with 18% and him with 33 or so percent camo. And I think that's really illustrative of what that means in the game. If I was a light tank and I had 50%, I certainly would not be seen by the char. In fact, he'd have to be much closer to see me. But in a practical sense, that's kind of what it looks like in the game. And there's a lot of spots like this in the game where your mediums want to go and do some sniping or do some spotting or kind of hold positions. You know, if you notice, my total draw distance covers a significant amount of the map. And then if you come in a little bit more, you've got the spotting distance. Then a little bit further in, you got the char. A lot of the game is played right at the edges of all of these lines. And when you're playing the vision game in this game, which is a huge part of the game, those 50, 25 meters can make a huge difference, especially based on the way the map is built and the positions people take. People take positions because of things like the mechanics, just as one example right there. So with my 18%, 16, whatever it was, I'm getting spotted every time I poke. Which means if I pop up and he was aimed in, he sees me, he gets a shot. So in practical sense, I poke, I get shot. Not Zemke. Zemke could poke up there, aim in and wait for his shot, shoot, then he's going to get spotted because his camo is going to decrease from shooting, but he'll be able to start backing down. And that is the difference between my poke being extremely dangerous for me, or more dangerous, and his poke not being dangerous at all. At least if he doesn't take a shot anyway, or somebody else gets closer. So I just wanted to show that to you, and that's kind of an example of why that stuff matters. And you may not think about it as much with mediums. Heavies don't get great camo, but mediums, they're kind of living in that area where a little bit extra camo can make a big difference on the safety of your trades and your pokes. So there you go. That's what I had for today on camo mechanics and a practical example of what that actually looks like in game. You guys have a great one. See ya.